Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Wolf Financial Live. Super excited to have Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Cap joining us, as well as Stock Sniper from the Timeline for discussion here around investing in classified or no longer classified technology. Really a play here on government defense, warfare, space, and so many other areas kind of coming together into one. We were having a space about this yesterday. The government heard about it. They shut us down in real time. They didn't want the people to know about it, but we're back up live here on the live stream today. We cannot be silenced. We're going to tell you all about it. Matt, how's it going?
It's going good, and hopefully the Men in Black won't be knocking on my door at some point here.
Yes, that is the plan. God willing, hopefully things continue to go smoothly. Kevin, thanks for joining this conversation. To those that are listening, follow up from discussion yesterday. Just a reminder, we're going to be talking about specific tickers here. Specifically, the ticker is UFOD. That is a ETF from Tuttle Cap. Reminder as well, investors should carefully consider a fund's investment objectives, risks, and charges and expenses prior to investing. The fund's prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about the Tuttle Capital ETFs on TuttleCap.com. That's where you can obtain the fund's prospectus and summary prospectus. Or I'm sure you can always directly message Matthew as well, right on social media at Matthew Tuttle. Pretty easy to find there as well. Excited to be working together with you. And thank you to SIBO for setting up this live stream. With that being said, let's get right back into the topic. There's so much happening right now. Obviously, in the Middle East, people are seeing a wave of new technology and weapons. There's discussions around aliens. Obama saying, yes, they do exist, not at Area 51. Who really knows technology? But the idea concept here is that there's just technology that we don't fully comprehend yet or is not out to the public yet that is going to be revealed, and having the ability to invest in this, I think, at a high level. So, Matt, I'll turn it back over to you if you kind of want to bring the audience back into that conversation we were having yesterday and what excites you so much about this.
Yeah. So what excites me about this is all of the things we're seeing. Obama coming out saying aliens are real. Trump coming out, I'm going to release the file. The New York Times article a few years back. People testifying in front of Congress. It's setting us up for something. And forgetting about the whole alien thing, which is really interesting, but not really investable unless you're on Polymarket. What really interests me is something we call the secret gap. And it's the idea that a lot of technology starts off in the government and then eventually makes its way into the public. Internet, GPS, self-driving, on and on and on and on. And, our sense is that the next kind of level of technology to be released is around kind of free energy, even though they'll figure out a way to charge us for it, and, advanced propulsion. And that's the stuff that excites me. I mean, the alien stuff, it's all fun, but the idea that at some point, either by force of Congress or other people making developments in some of these non-public companies, I think some of this technology is going to surface, and we've got a way to profit from it.
Yeah, I think the point that you made there is twofold. One, what's inside of this is a lot of potential, regardless of whether or not aliens get revealed, other pieces, right? But at the core, what you were saying is, like, we know that there is this technology that is out there, that exists, that is beyond what we've been seeing. I thought you made a great point on the space yesterday when you said, hey, the Model T and the current car, right? They just use the same fuel source. Everything else has changed. How is that happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've always got to, or you should always look at just what makes sense and what doesn't. So we've had massive technological advancement over, the past 120 years, let's say, but we're still using fossil fuels. Does that make sense? I mean, it doesn't to me. Nikola Tesla was working on, and again, I call it free energy. It's a way to harness energy from the environment. Nikola Tesla was working on that 100 years ago. And there have been people throughout the years who have made breakthroughs in this, and those breakthroughs disappear, get classified, all sorts of things happen, and we're still using fossil fuels. Just doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me that somewhere in some secret government program, we have not made advances in that area.
Yeah, I think those are great points. Kevin, Snipa, want to pull you into the mix here, have a conversation. This is an area where you've heavily focused, and I really enjoyed some of the back and forth that you were having yesterday. What stands out to you about this when you look at it as a concept in an ETF?
I have to say it has multiple exposures. It is obviously positioned for classified technology being released. And, Matthew is pretty much explaining it very thoroughly and very well. This isn't a poly market bet. There's multiple exposures in multiple ways where this concept or this ETF thrives. And a great example is the Iranian tensions. You're seeing Lockheed Martin at all-time highs. You're seeing Northrop catch bids. You're seeing all the legacy defenders, and again, a lot of their technology is now combat proven, and it actually has legit testimonials behind it. This is something where UFOD also does get a benefit from. It's not only exclusively towards this, but again, there's multiple ways where, or multiple paths to where this ETF could ultimately thrive, which is pretty cool. And I like the idea of multiple exposures. Could I go ahead and ask a couple of questions?
Please. Yeah, let me just hammer on that point before you do, so I don't forget.
Absolutely.
Because that's a great point. So, for example, we are launching a space ETF next week. 11 space stocks, you know the names. That is a one-sided bet on space. If space does well, those stocks do well. If space doesn't do well, those stocks are going to suffer. The cool thing about UFOD is Trump could come out and say, we looked at the files, aliens don't exist. Everything you're seeing is, swamp gas. And the government can come out and say, hey, look, Congress came in, we have no technology. This is still a basket of stocks you'd want to own. It's not going to go down on that news. So to me, it's kind of like our SPAC ETF. So we have a SPAC ETF, pre-merger SPACs. SPACs are investing in T-bills. Worst case scenario, I get T-bill returns. Best case scenario, a SPAC announces a deal, the market loves it, and it pops. So to me, worst case, I'm in a basket of stocks that I like anyway, and I've got a call option. If this technology exists, it comes out, it could pop massively. So I just wanted to make that point. So yeah, go ahead, ask away.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point to emphasize also, just the legacy aerospace exposure that you have here. And obviously, you're positioned for a disruption of conventional flight. It could be like some kind of anti-gravity technology. It could be hypersonic. It could even be commercial supersonic speeds and other things that would be obviously a massive disruptor of the current aerospace technologies that are out there. But if I'm going to kind of segue, you made a couple of interesting points, and you were kind of talking about Trump. And one thing I want to say, with Trump's recent directive to release classified UFO and UAP files, which we heard about him talk about this last February, if I'm not mistaken, what specific portfolio changes or reweightings did you make off of that news when you heard him say that he's interested in declassifying things?
None. From the standpoint of what stocks I want to own, that's a non-event. But from the standpoint of when may this come out, that's massively important. And again, we talked about on the space, there's so much misinformation, disinformation on this topic. If you believe kind of the main narrative here, there's a legacy program where this technology exists. And Congress, for the past couple of years, they've been having testimony. It's amazing to me it's not covered in the news, but Congress is trying, it's outside of Congress. Congress is trying to get control over it. What I think Trump is really saying, if you read between the lines, is I want to bring this program back under presidential purview. And again, if you believe the story, Eisenhower was the president who lost control over this. Kennedy tried to get control back. No president has ever been able to get control back of these programs. Trump is trying. And that was where I read into him saying, I want to release the files. So it got me excited. It didn't make any portfolio changes.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, and it seems like you're already positioned accordingly prior to him saying that. Um,
Yep.
Yesterday, so for anybody also who did not hear the discussion yesterday, you'll find that on the last 30 minutes of yesterday's Stocks on Spaces clip, the recordings are posted on that account. Very interesting discussion there, and I encourage everybody to also check that out. But yesterday, we were talking about the black budget, or partially about the U.S. defense budget is at $1 trillion approximately, and 5% of that is going to be black budget, which equates to about $50 billion. Now, we were talking about who would be the biggest beneficiaries of this $50 billion of the classified technology, and you highlighted Armentum Holdings. Armentum Holdings, I'm sorry, I can never say that name correctly. And you pretty much said how it would be one of the easiest to recognize based on the numbers, because Lockheed is going to consistently be putting up very high numbers, especially considering a $194 billion backlog for them, and a couple $1 billion added into there might not be as noticeable on Lockheed as it would be on some of the others. Could you elaborate a little bit on why you see this as the purest play?
Yeah. So really what you want to look at when you're doing anything thematic is you've kind of got the obvious winners, the first order thinking, and, that's the big defense primes. But then you also want the suppliers to the winners. Then you want the asymmetrical plays, the companies who disclosure of this would be a massive impact on their stock price. So if it came out, all right, Lockheed Martin's got this technology, that's going to have an impact. But Lockheed Martin's a massive company, all sorts of business lines. They're not going to 20x, maybe over time, but they're not going to 20x immediately on something like this, where an Amentum could. So I want a mix of kind of those asymmetrical plays with kind of the stodgier, obvious winners. And same thing with everything. You make money on the obvious stuff, but where you make your real money is finding the asymmetry. So you want the obvious stuff, but you've got to find where's that asymmetry and put that in there if you really want to do well. And to me, Amentum is the real asymmetric play here.
And also, I would love to ask, because, I mean, again, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're at 5.2% Amentum. Obviously, I know that changes on a day-to-day basis based on given values and market, but last time I looked, it was sitting around 5.2%. How concentrated is the portfolio? Is this by design? And is there a max position size you would be willing to allocate on a single stock?
There isn't. I like concentrated. So the space ETF we're coming out with next week, 11 names, because there really are only 11 names. What I find, 9 times out of 10 with ETFs that are out there is there just way too many names. Like, quantum. There's like 5 quantum names. I don't know what the quantum ETF has. I think it's like 75. It doesn't make any sense to me. And there are probably about 52 names in here, which honestly kills me. I don't want 52 names in here, but if this technology gets released, it's going to have impact over so many sectors that, I don't want 52 names in here, but I really need exposure here. I need here. Now, my goal would be, let's say this technology does get disclosed, you're going to get a lot better sense, because right now I'm the only one. I'm not the only one. I've talked to other money managers or venture capital firms, but I'm one of the only ones. And I'm the only one doing this out loud, trying to find these companies. Once this technology gets released, everybody is going to be doing this. And you're going to get a lot more intelligence, because now I'm going to be seeing, all right, you've got, 100 of the top hedge funds, where are they putting their money? And that will allow me, hopefully, to bring the portfolio down. I'd love to have it only be 25 names. Right now it's 52. And again, I don't want it too concentrated right now because, again, we don't know for sure anything here. Once I know for sure, then I got no problem with concentration.
Yeah, I got to say I agree there, especially considering your thesis on this technology. Um, Let me ask you this. In this scenario, let's hypothetically say there's no disclosures. Looking ahead, do you plan to evolve this strategy, to add, let's just say,
Uh-oh. We cut him
We
off.
got him.
I'm
We got
sorry,
him.
you hearing me now?
You're good. We got you.
Yeah.
There's no way this happened again.
You're about to ask me probably about Raytheon technology. They knew it and they cut you off.
Well, I'll get him back in. here, but
That is amazing. This two times in a row. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, they found him. Sniper, we got you back.
Yes, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry about that.
We can.
Yeah, so looking ahead, do you plan to evolve the strategy into maybe adding some international names, maybe some of these private space plays, even some of these energy disruptors that are kind of coming out here? If there is no disclosure coming, do you see this strategy kind of evolving on some of those fronts?
I mean, even if there is disclosure, I'd see it. It's always going to evolve. I've never been a fan of index funds. I think there are some things that you do want to do an index for, not this. So I think it will constantly evolve. And the interesting thing is I get a lot of people now coming out of the woodwork. I mean, some of them are weird, but I mean, I got like physicists calling me and giving me ideas. And that's really cool because I'm not a physicist. So some of the ideas, like most of them came from me and my research. Some of them came from people reaching out to me who, are in different disciplines that I'm not in, saying, hey, take a look at this company, or why isn't this company in your portfolio? And I'm like, well, you know what? It should be. So yes, I definitely think it will continue to evolve. And, we're researching this topic every single day. We just came across, a company the other day, Ouster, and we're like, you know what? I think that fits in here for a small allocation. I mean, I'm not going to add just to add. Again, I don't like having this many names, but if I find something that fits in here, I'm going to put it in.
And now, let me ask you this. On a scale from a 1 to a 10, how interested are you in the SpaceX IPO?
A 10. Not interested from the standpoint that I'd buy it day one, but interested from the standpoint that it makes sense in this portfolio. It makes sense in my space ETF that I'm doing next week. And we're going to be filing for some other things around SpaceX as well. So I am very excited. I am still holding out hope. So in my SPAC ETF, the symbol is SPCX. I'm holding out hope that Elon buys it. I'm thinking that's probably, I would have heard from him by now. I think he's going to go with X.
Yeah,
but
probably ticker X.
What's that?
Probably just the X, right?
Yeah, but that would, on a scale from 1 to 10, then I'd be at a 20.
That's a great answer. I gotta say, I'm sitting at a 10 as well, and I agree with your take there. I might not necessarily buy it the first day it's available. I want to kind of see how things set in and see how the market kind of reacts to that. Given like all of the crazy volatility that we've seen in this defense and aerospace / space sector within the last month, how much of this would you really attribute to defense sector news coming up, and how much of this would you kind of attribute towards disclosure or headline flow?
I'd say 100% on what's going on now. I don't think, again, I've talked to some big money managers who are doing something similar quietly, but not big enough that they're going to move the needle. So I think it's all, Venezuela. And then, we weren't 100% sure we were going to attack Iran. I mean, Trump art of the deal. You never really know. But, I think there was a fair degree of certainty that at some point we're going to attack Iran. So I think the run up we saw in defense stocks was pretty much 100% that.
Let me ask one follow-up question to this. In terms of a disclosure, what do you think would need to be said for a price to really significantly move?
So what we need not disclosure that aliens are real. That doesn't do anything for my basket except just makes it fun to talk about. What we really need is disclosure that we have this technology. And again, alien or human, I don't care. Alien is way more fun, but if it's human, I'm fine with it too. Disclosure, we have this technology, and that it is moving towards being commercialized. That's the game changer for me. I think the one step, and I talked about this yesterday, that you need for this to happen is some sort of immunity, because there are tons of people testifying in front of Congress that we do have this technology. Almost all of them are from the intelligence field. What you need is the guy at Lockheed Martin to come in and say, yeah, I'm working on it. It's right over here in my lab. Come see. And if you believe the narrative that there's this program going on that's been outside of Congress, well, that guy's breaking the law. So you need to give him protection, from retaliation, obviously, but also protection from prosecution. Because, dude, you've been working on something outside of Congress, taking, Defense Department money with no oversight. You broke the law.
Yeah, I have to say there could be somebody right now listening that meets this exact description. And I hope that for our sake, I hope he would go ahead and come forward and say something to kind of do this. I don't want to take up too much time in this. I'll pass it back to Gav here. I know we just have a couple of minutes left, but I have to say that was an amazing discussion. And I think that there's a lot of things that I'm very excited to read about following this stream.
Cool.
Yeah, great questions there from Snipe. Thank you again, by the way. We're going to run another several minutes here, but to all those that have been joining in, we've been talking about the UFOD ETF from Tuttle. Excited again to have this live stream sponsored collaboration effort here from SIBO as well as Tuttle, as we mentioned in the beginning. And again, if you want to find the prospectus or the summary prospectus for UFOD, it is available right on TuttleCap.com. And also, as we mentioned at the beginning, you can also, tweet at Matt Tuttle directly right on X, ask any questions that you have. He's very available in that area. One thing which I always like to discuss is just trying to understand exactly where, you see an ETF fitting into the average retail investor's portfolio. I think a lot of people have, broad-based index funds, maybe some single stock exposure. Do you think this is something that they're, carving out some of their QQQ, or is it taking place of some of those single stocks? Just how you see it fitting in.
Yeah, I really see that this can be, a core holding. Everyone's going to be different with what they do, but it touches so many areas. It's got the aerospace and defense. It's got kind of that, the engineering, the quantas and things like that. It's got photonics in there. It's got like the Palantirs in there, the rare earths in there. So it touches so many areas that I would argue you want in your portfolio. And it's a lot of areas like, where I was saying before that we don't need disclosure for this to work. A lot of this is AI infrastructure, the photonics and the quantas and all of that. So it touches on so many different themes. I think it could be a core holding, and I'm using it, as a core holding in our wealth management firm and in my portfolio, because it touches on so much.
Got it. So potentially could be a core holding for those, especially ones that want the access to, like you said, AI plays, a couple other areas. You talked about obtaining certain levels of certainty to make sure that this portfolio is more concentrated. I'm curious, like, what are some of those catalysts of some of those things that you'd be looking for to create change within this portfolio?
So
What would cause you to
really,
rebalance?
I mean, really, it's the disclosure of this technology. Then you're going to have every smart analyst on Wall Street looking at this, and you're going to be able to see where they're moving money, and and that'll help. And for that to happen, again, I want to see some sort of immunity for whistleblowers, and then I want to see people from the military contractors testifying in front of Congress, not intelligence people. I don't trust the intelligence people. Is it a full truth, a partial truth, a total lie? Who knows? I want to see the guys from Lockheed and Raytheon testifying in front of Congress.
Interesting. Okay, so heavy distrust for the government if they were to make the disclosures themselves.
Yeah, when you've got to clear your statement with the Department of Defense, I take it with a grain of salt. And in knowing how much misinformation the government puts out on the whole UFO issue, it's just hard to know. And within the UFO movement, there are factions that have different agendas, different feelings about things. So it's impossible to know who to believe until we get the actual truth out.
Got it. That makes sense. I think that that's a healthy framework as well, because some people might, see someone in the government testify about something and be like, oh, catalyst, I'm going to go purchase something, but they don't understand, right? Those statements are cleared, who you really need to hear it from, some of those different pieces. That makes sense to me as well. Just to kind of close this out, just for the last few minutes, I'd like to talk about the current conflict that we're seeing and how you think this could speed up some of the disclosures and other pieces. So seeing a lot going on right now in the Middle East, Iran, but also, there's talk about Cuba and other pieces. Do you think just the environment that we're in right now really is going to speed up the process of these disclosures and these potential catalysts?
So I think it very well could. Certainly it helps our basket regardless, but what you tend to see is some of this technology surface. So in Venezuela, we saw the discombobulator, whatever that is, probably some sort of like directed energy sonic weapon. In this conflict, you saw like some advanced drone stuff that I don't think people realized we had. And then you also saw Israel shooting down missiles with lasers. So that's all interesting. What else might you see surface? Because that's generally where you see it, with prior Gulf wars. We saw stuff where, oh my God, I didn't realize we had, missiles that we could fly 3,000 miles and go through your window.
Yeah.
We didn't realize we had stealth fighters, stuff like that was surfaced in prior wars. There is a chance some of this technology could surface here.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think that, you mentioned it with the discombobulator, and then I think with this type of what we just saw, what recently happened with Iran, where when they went in to kill the Ayatollah, I know that there's been Americans on the ground now, but initially, right, that initial force and attack was largely done remotely with a lot of different pieces as well, obviously with drone strikes and other areas like that. And so once the government uses it, there's a much bigger chance that the public knows about it. And I think that that's kind of what you're getting at.
Definitely.
Yeah. Sniper, do you have any last questions, pieces that you want to go over here?
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally rugged out. Could I get a confirmation you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Nice. Yeah, it's also very sketchy that happened as well. But I want to say or ask, if there was a disclosure to come, would you focus then more concentrated on the particular names or the particular beneficiaries of the disclosure?
Yes, I would definitely like to get this more concentrated.
Yep. Honestly, I think that's it for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think we covered this pretty well. You've definitely made the outline in the case. I really like that comparison, right? If you want to bet on if aliens are coming, you've got, Kalshi and Polymarket. If you want to actually bet on disclosures from the government based on technology that's being used, this is an area for you to gravitate towards. Also, if you just are of the opinion, hey, conflict's going to escalate and the government's going to be forced to show their hand on certain weaponry, right? That could be this area, or we're going to be going to space and we need new energy sources, right? That are going to be revealed there. It's kind of a play on innovation, I think, and a reveal of innovation, but specifically in a defense aerospace area. So pretty interesting stuff. Matt, any final comments you'd want to share on it?
No, I mean, I think we hit all the good points. For more information, go to my website, TuttleCap.com. We also do we do a lot of thematic stuff. We have a free newsletter. We write about investment themes, every day. But yeah, I think we hit the main points here.
Yeah, exactly like he said. And I'll show that real quick just before we do close out. Again, TitleCap.com, Total Capital. You can look through a variety of different ETFs that are here, UFOD, right up at the top for people to be able to check out. Engineered for Alien Alpha, full fund details, fact sheet as well within here can be found. The prospectus and the fund prospectus is right there. You can go through all the holdings. We talked about some of those holdings on this call, in terms of what has upside, what has further upside, potential consolidation, all those different pieces were covered. Thank you again to everybody that did tune in. This will turn into a recording on both X as well as YouTube. I see we got a good little YouTube audience watching here today as well. So thanks for those tuning in from there. If you have any questions on this, Matt, I'm assuming they can just tag you directly, message you.
Yeah, feel free. I answer all questions that compliance lets me answer.
There you go. You heard it there. And this is green since launch. It was launched back on February 5th, and it's up 2.78% since then, despite some of these turbulent markets. So thank you, everyone, again, for tuning in. Thank you, Sniper, for being part of this conversation. Tuttle crew, the SIBO team, thanks for helping make this possible. Wishing everybody a great rest of your Thursday. We have a lot more content coming today. We'll be live for Stock Zone Spaces and a couple of other shows. Our live trading show always runs throughout the day. Go check it out.